Hi and welcome very much. This is a little different, this video podcast. Today I'll be covering the first part of Gemini season, which is including that Gemini new moon, because there's a lot of overlapping astrological symbolism expressing in the themes of synthesis, integration, genesis, and healing. And I do feel like it's really important to speak about this as a whole because this energy, whilst really being exhibited strongly through the powerful Gemini interface, it will continue from this point down a path that we are choosing to step onto now. And the astrology reflects this. So settle in. And of course, thank you for listening to and supporting my work, my craft, my passion. I truly appreciate it and I never take it for granted. This is for you. So, just briefly on the prevailing concepts of Gemini season, we have a month of the sun in Gemini from the 21st of May till the 21st of June, and it is astrologically busy, which of course suits Gemini just fine. Now, Gemini is the sign of the twins, of duality, of synthesis. Gemini likes movement, stimulation, learning, interaction, multitasking. It rules the mental processes, the mind, communication, so speech, language, writing, correspondence, and it rules the multifaceted nature of the mind and communication, as well as multifacetedness itself. So we're busy in Gemini season. So perhaps there may be more plate spinning, more multitasking required, more people to see, and this perhaps might not feel as inundating as it normally would because the natural flow of this Gemini energy is inclined that way anyway. So it flows along the grain, so to speak. Now, Gemini is also about short journeys or trips, your locality and your neighborhood, your neighbors, and the people in your community and your interaction with them. So it can be a very social time or a time with long lists, things to tick off, people to see, things to do. Now, Gemini is ruled by Mercury, known as the trickster or messenger god. Now, he's a psychopomp, which means that he's the only god who can traverse all realms, from the underworld to the earth to the heavens. So, like all mutable signs, Gemini, ruled by Mercury, the god of having a finger in all of the pies, is about duality and choice. So the myth of the ancient twins, Castor and Pollux, one mortal, one immortal, which overlays the Gemini story. It teaches about the union of two halves, which are part of the same whole, and the journey towards the synthesis and integration of separate parts, which belong together via communion and interaction. Now, when this inner union or acceptance isn't remembered, the strong Gemini can be utterly restless, unsettled, distracted, scattered, with a short attention span and a reluctance or a pathological inability to be tied down to or focusing on any one thing. Now, the fully functional Gemini is fun, witty, intelligent, eclectic, thinks laterally, it's social, with never a dull moment, and has an absolute talent for handling many things at once. Gemini season can therefore be highly active, social, stimulating. And actually, Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is particularly active now. And we have some very significant ingresses and very potent triple conjunctions interplaying with that Mercury and with the strong Gemini energies. The entire season is overshadowed by the vital ingress of Saturn into Aries, which happened on the 25th of May. This is a brief 3-month sample of what we may be in for over the next 3 years when Saturn enters Aries proper in February next year. Now, I'll be making another podcast video for you about the significance of this brand new Saturn cycle because it's interacting with both the newly ingress Neptune in Aries and also asteroid Ceres at this time. So there's a lot of Aries energy as well as Gemini energy. And there's an ongoing activation of the planets and asteroids in Gemini, as well as a very energetic ruler of Gemini, Mercury. So we're consistently being reminded with Mercury of these openings, these doorways, choice points, new starts, new senses of self. And I feel that they are here really behaving like portals of some kind into a new layer or a new sphere of your life, your world, and your existence. Now, I have a normal list of transits here, as usual, on this slide for your information, but of course, I'm going to be anatomizing all of this for you anyway as we go, so you don't need to keep track. I'm going over the energies as a whole here more than I'm going to be going into detail. So, starting off with the fact that we have 3 major triple conjunctions that are very dynamic. We have 2 in Aries and 1 in Gemini. Now, I've already mentioned that Saturn Neptune series conjunction in Aries, and this Saturn Neptune connection will continue on throughout the year and into next year at the very beginning degrees of the whole zodiac, 0 degrees of Aries. Ceres entered Aries back on the 17th of May. She had her conjunction to Neptune in Aries on the 22nd, right before Saturn entered Aries to join the party on the 25th. There is no exact conjunction this year between Saturn and Neptune. That's going to happen next year, but they come jolly close within a degree, traveling together the entire time. So the energy of this conjunction is definitely operative, especially with Ceres coming through now to touch both of them. Saturn was at the last degrees of Pisces back on the 14th of May that I've already spoken about before, and then Neptune, of course, on that 22nd of May. Ceres is helping these two blend together, almost like a mother bringing 2 children to the table to get along. Now, Ceres is a mother archetype because Saturn is the tangible, the boundaries, and Neptune is the ineffable, the boundless. These two coming together in a favorable way can seem a bit counterintuitive. Ceres is the force of the cycles of nature or life, of having to deal with the inexorable lulls and highs of life and how to maintain and feed yourself on all levels throughout this. She is a sustaining, nourishing force here, something supportive and even stable to hold on to throughout whatever major eras you are ending or beginning or both. And in Aries, she's kind of the typical sports mum or sports dad who's cheering you on, invigorating your sense of potency and capability from the sidelines while you're playing the game of life, while you're finding your feet in terms of this incendiary self-awareness that is coming through. Ceres is cheering you on, saying you've got this, you're amazing, look how much you've done, look how brave you are. And this is also a reminder to cheer yourself on, to support yourself by being self-encouraging, having the bravery to see yourself as capable, as a self-determined person. And you could possibly feel like here with these energies, like you're looking through a window at the horizon that you've chosen to sail towards, or where at least you'd like to, because all of this initiatory energy of the significant Aries ingresses and conjunctions here is fueling this sense of where do I want to go next. Now, with this very, very strong Gemini energy present, there is an offer to choose. Because these points are interacting with a bunch of Gemini ingresses and a Gemini triple conjunction, which I'll talk about in a second, via a sextile, which is an invitation or an opening, this newness, this fire or passion or drive to bring your personal dream to earth, to embody your whole true sense of self with acceptance, it's conspicuously brought to the conscious brain by Mercury, by these points in Gemini. On the other side of this, we have these Aries bodies interacting via another sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, currently retrograde, which means that the Gemini energy is trining that Pluto. Now we have here in this configuration a minor grand trine, a talent triangle, whatever you want to call it. It's a configuration of creative, flowing opportunity and possibility. So these windows, doorways, portals, light bulb moments, new perspectives, whatever this may be for you, it is with that Pluto involvement now transformative, and it has the potential to alter you, your life, your situation, your world in ways that are not only profound and compelling, but empowering. Pluto is about power. So we have this triangle with that triple conjunction of Saturn-Neptune series at the peak, with Pluto on one side and this fascinating triple conjunction in Gemini on the other side. Now, this triple conjunction includes Sedna, Hygeia, and the Sun. The sun's ingress into Gemini on the 21st of May coincided with asteroid Hygeia entering Gemini a day later. Now, these two have been traveling together, which I've already analyzed for you in my last forecast video in Taurus season. Essentially, this is a healing or a remedy of your inner self, knowing you about having a healthy ego sense, about the embodiment of your true inner flame, inner spirit, your unique self, and there has been a purging or a cleansing in this area. Now, the Sun and Hygeia straight away run into dwarf planet Sedna in Gemini at 0 degrees. The Sun does this on the 22nd, Hygeia on the 25th, which is the day of that Saturn's ingress into Aries. So all of this is an ongoing, unfolding energy pattern, which is blending and interweaving. And that's why I'm kind of speaking of these transits more broadly here rather than chronologically, because this energy isn't confined to one day. It's spread out across this whole month and into the rest of the year and next year. It's a very important time. This triple conjunction here, Sedna, Hygeia, and the Sun in Gemini. It's about mental health, okay? Thought patterns, self-stories, but the ones that come from the deep, the ones that come from any places of pain and darkness, because we have Sedna here. And it's the healing or the cleansing of these deeper places of hurt here, okay, which are creating these stories. Now, the Sun in Gemini is illuminating this. Hygeia is significating a healing process of this. And Sedna is the one who's teaching you about the transmutation and evolution through this. She is what is representative here of the pains and the lows of life, specifically violation and betrayal. Sedna has an extremely long orbit. She's only entered Gemini back in 2023, and she's still at 0 degrees. So she speaks of a more collective experience of evolution and transmutation, usually through trials and very deep journeys. And in Gemini, this is about the mind, the deep places of the brain, which are more instinctive, which are more raw. This is a time of those places being brought to your attention. This is about the evolution of your own mentality and the way your brain works with you or against you. Collectively, we are certainly seeing discoveries and broader understandings of what consciousness itself actually is. We're learning more about the brain and about the powers of the mind and how humanity is evolving through this learning and this understanding. Now, Hygeia here signifies healing and remedy, and also prevention. She speaks of having healthy mental boundaries, maintaining a healthy mind, and maintaining a conscious knowing of self with the Sun here as well. Now, this has been interacting with that Saturn Neptune series conjunction in Aries, which is why these openings and doorways or new beginnings or choices here, whatever it is for you, they're very strongly linked now with any healing processes around your mental health and well-being. Okay. And it's also around the ways in which you interact with and communicate with others from a level sense of self. Now, Gemini is all about the bits, the parts, the pieces, the differences, the changes. And with all of these conjunctions that are representing unions and the merging of energy, the high Gemini forces here of synthesis, integration, connection, and processing are all really strong. So there could be some kind of joining, connecting the dots, putting the puzzle pieces together, meeting the right people, being in the right place at the right time, coming to any realizations. This is not an unconscious journey. Whatever you're moving through, this is working with you very personally and also very consciously, very perceptibly. And if you look at your chart and see where you have the beginning degrees of Gemini and the beginning degrees of Aries and Aquarius, these are the areas of your life that are undergoing these shifts. And if you have any planets or points in your charts at these beginning degrees of any sign whatsoever, let's say between 28 degrees of one sign up to like 2 to 3 degrees of the following sign, all of these ingresses are connecting with your chart as well. They can give you a greater insight into how your life's energy is evolving and shifting and how you can work with it to maximize your potential and highest good. And that's the beauty of astrology. Now, onto Mercury, ruler of Gemini. He's making aspects connecting to planets and points nearly every day, keeping this process in the mind. Now he's activating many divine yin placements. So the asteroids, which represent goddess energy, and also then the south node in Virgo, which, as I've explained before, Virgo strongly correlates to priestess or goddess energy. So perhaps there's some connection or integration of disparate parts of the yin and yang coming to your conscious knowing. And especially because we also did have that beautiful, passionate, exciting, fiery trine between the cosmic lovers, Venus and Mars, on the 22nd of May as well. So this is a meeting of the yin and yang here as well. There is a bringing to consciousness, okay, with a deep psychological complex. And this is probably in relationships. And this is when Mercury opposed Juno retrograde on the 22nd, okay? Following on the 23rd, there was a tension around bringing together tricky parts to make peace or bring clarity with a square to Pallas. He then goes on to trine Pallas on the 7th of June, which brings a flow of ideas, mental stimulation, inspiration, a solution, a treaty. Then on the 24th, there's a wonderful blending of conscious self-worth and letting go of unhealthy ways of being with a trine to that south node in Virgo. Then on the 25th, the day of that Saturn ingress into Aries, we have a breakthrough moment because this is when Mercury makes a conjunction to the higher octave of Uranus in Taurus. This is when perhaps the mind is open to freeing possibilities, creative ideas, even wacky ideas. Mercury then joins the party in Gemini when he enters this sign on the 26th of May, and he will conjunct Sedna, Hygeia, and then the new moon on the 27th. So he's joining in with this sextile triangle with that stellium in Aries, with that trine to Pluto retrograde, making all of this more conscious, more forefront in the mind, in your daily life, in your interactions, and in your communication or correspondence of any of this, internally or externally. Now, Mercury, this ruler of Gemini, has moved into Gemini just a day before that Gemini new moon, and it's in orb of this new moon, and this new moon is in orb of that operational triangle between all of these dynamic triple conjunctions. It's a wider orb to be sure, but it is present. Now, Mercury is bringing this new moon in orb of these slower outer planets, which have a deeper, more long-term influence. Now, the closest connection here is the trine to Pluto retrograde. So remember, back to the 27th of May, how your mind was making you feel and how your feelings were impacting your mind. This is about some renewing, transformation of the connection to your own brain and your mindfulness, your consciousness, of the sheer power with Pluto of your mind and your mental state, and perhaps some kind of ending or transformation of your mentality and your self stories, but also possibly of some of the people and some of the connections in your life. Now, remember, the moon is about your well-being, your needs, your inner emotional world, your sense of belonging. And if the connections and communications around you do not align with this, the trine to Pluto retrograde and the initiatory force of the new moon is perhaps a new beginning around these connections, which places you more firmly in your own power. Now, with the ingresses and conjunctions of these outer planets in Aries with Saturn, Neptune, and Ceres, all of these openings and beginnings in terms of your passions, your desires, your personal dreams, your personal goals, it's now connected to Gemini in a new way of thinking, a new mentality, and new stories. Now, Mercury here is giving a deliberate consciousness of how you think, how your mindset creates and directs your life. And there is a new, there's new brain waves coming through, and it's from the deep because Sedna is involved here, and with Pluto retrograde trining this. It's through being able to shed the deepest cycles of outdated ways, shed dead weight, shed old skins, and old stories of hurt or pain that have played their part, but which now serve no purpose anymore. And Mercury is conjunct this new moon, and it goes on to perfect its superior conjunction to the Sun on the 30th of May, and that's a significant part of Mercury's cycle. So this is an illumination with the Sun of the mind with Mercury and Gemini. This is about connection, ideas, an integration of the healthy ego with the Sun and the compelling power of the mind. And it's an illumination of the deep, and any deep old self stories coming from hurts coming up. Mercury is giving you the ability to comprehend and synthesize all of this, to be able to move through it, to shed it. And that's where this new beginning is now launching from. This could literally be the light bulb turning on, the changing of perspective, seeing with new eyes. And this is what propels any new starts here at the new moon and into the energies of the month and even the year. Because as I've said, these outer planets are in play for an extended period of time. And the initiations and openings of awareness at this new moon during this time frame here, with these multiple triple conjunctions in play with that minor grand trine, this is the opening time. This is the time of choice, the time of shedding duality, and taking that Aries assuredness to mark the first words of the new chapter and to take that step. And the other thing that is prominent on the new moon day is the first conjunction of 3 between Chiron and Eris at 25 degrees of Aries. Now, this is the other triple conjunction that I mentioned before, because we also have Venus coming through here, planet of love, attraction, worth, and relationship. She will be conjunct these points on the 2nd of June. She's in orb at the time of this lunation as well. Now, Chiron in Aries is about the identity wound, the healing and acceptance of your sense of self, the who am I question, which could be causing you pain, and the way your confidence or your capability in asserting yourself has been hindered, whether internally or externally. Now, Chiron is the bridge to healing and acceptance through this, and it's not an easy journey. Eris in Aries represents the discord within self. With Aries, it's the self. This is the part of your true self that have been shunned, ignored, even parts that have been shamed. This can either be by others or by your own self. The thing with Eris is that she fights back. Now, she's known as the counterpart to Mars, god of war. She shows what is in chaos, in discord, in disharmony. She doesn't create it. She shows that it's there. So similar to Mars, she is activating or triggering. Blended in a conjunction with this healer, Chiron, on the day of the new moon, there's a new outlook on the pain to be healed, a new perspective on wounds that have been holding you back from being your true self and from having confidence, self-confidence, self-belief. There's a new knowing of this. And with Chiron comes acceptance. That's the key to the way Chiron heals. It's not through moving past and shedding with Chiron. It's through the acceptance that it's there, that it's happening, that the wound is present and part of you, part of your experience. And the acceptance and the wisdom and experience through this is the healing. And the scar and the memory might not disappear entirely, but the acceptance of it is what helps the healing. And with Eris, there's a healing of the discord, the acceptance of any parts of you that have been shunned, that have been ignored. And then when Venus comes through, she brings in the love, self-love in Aries. She knows how abundant you are when you holistically accept all parts of you and lead your own life from your heart. This could also represent some kind of healing of discord in relationships, even of a balancing of disharmony in finances. Especially Venus brings in a brave sense of self-worth here as well. So whatever, with this new moon, new mentality, whatever new ways of thinking, new connections, new perspectives, new chapters, it's certainly tied into that brave, holistic sense of self, especially with that other Aries connection we have here with the Saturn Neptune series. It's also coinciding with the brave sense of self-love and a healing of the discord within, by acceptance of the repressed parts of you. Okay, we've got a double whammy of Aries occurring on this new moon here. And the new moon itself is really epitomizing all the convergent energies of this time period with the Aries to Gemini interactions, and the echoes of this time are continuing throughout this year into the next, because Uranus will be entering Gemini to form this minor grand trine all over again down the line. More on that later. But it's why this time period is quite significant, and the choices made now, if in alignment with your true inner self, will be so empowering and transformational with Pluto, evolutionary with Sedna, revolutionary when Uranus comes through, gratifying and rewarding with Saturn, as well as with Neptune. It's highly spiritual, whatever spirituality means to you, in terms of understanding your own frequency and your own energy. So it's a jolly cocktail of outer planets, and the Gemini energy is nothing if not a mixologist, which is really helpful now in terms of being conscious of all the parts of you and the parts of yourself and the parts of your life, but seeing it as a whole dynamic, interactive entity without exclusion, without a dualistic mindset. So don't underestimate the significance of the time period, and anything you can consciously choose now to empower yourself and take the reins on your own life will have important implications and ongoing effects in the future. So I'm just going to go to a very quick and very apt tarot reading of this Gemini new moon. And we've got the Sage of Wands here, which is the traditional King of Wands, and the Four of Pentacles. This deck is the Tarot for All Ages by Elizabeth Hadel, which I like for Gemini season because it has a real storybook feel to it. Now, the Sage of Wands, it's the leadership, the magnetism, the boldness that comes with having complete self-assurance and confidence in your own sense of self and your own capability. If only we could all have this all the time. The Sage embodies all aspects of the suit of fire, which is understanding the destructive force of getting in too hot, being too overconfident or overcompensating with a massive ego presence. And it also understands the utter, compelling, creative force of the personal will. This is a message to embody this understanding, to take the lead, to be your own sage, to be your own monarch. And here in this card, the sage is turning away from the house of stability and convention represented by the Four of Pentacles here. Now there's beams of light emanating from the face of the sage, and it's like the force of his own creative powers, the force of his own energy. It's emanating out to create life. It looks like the light is coming from his third eye. That's what I see, which is very Neptune in Aries. So it's using the intuition of both fire and Neptune to create your life, to forge the way forward. And it's coming from a place of security with the Four of Pentacles here. Now, this can be read in multiple ways, as can any card reading. But the sage is here either supported by his sense of worth, sense of security and value, supported by a trust and a practicality here. And remember, with Saturn, even though Saturn's in Aries, that's what this is. This combination of the King of Wands and the Four of Pentacles, it's Saturn in Aries. And Saturn's interacting with the new moon and the planets in Gemini. And whilst Saturn's in fiery, passionate, highly activating Aries, Saturn is about structure, discipline, mastery. And this is saying that amongst the potentially exciting new developments, it's maintenance of self, Saturn in Aries, that is going to be vital for success. So the force of your will, the force of your passion here, represented by the Sage of Wands, it needs a channel, it needs a container, and it needs work. So this is building with Saturn and the Four of Pentacles, your passions and your dreams here with the Aries energy and the Wands. Now, the Four of Pentacles can also represent stinginess, inflexibility, self-preservation, and there may be some kind of stifling energy going on here, whether that's self-imposed, situational, or otherwise, even some kind of a restriction on wanting to express your energies freely, express your passions freely. There could be a lack of material self-care here because the Sage is facing away from this Four of Pentacles, but if you look closer at this card, at the Four of Pentacles, you'll see that the house here is actually a rocket. Perhaps it's an uncompleted rocket, a work in progress. I mean, it looks like it's scaffolding underneath. So that certainly represents the building and the rising of these astrological energies that are entering new signs and starting new things, or it's a metaphor here. And the structure and self-maintenance in your life is what is going to launch you in your success, launch you in your abundance. And Saturn says, channel your passions effectively, blend the brilliant ideas and solutions with Gemini, with that passion from Aries, with dedication, discipline, time, and work with Saturn. And that combination, the force of that combination is what's going to propel you forward so powerfully that it'll be like a rocket pioneering upwards into space, into infinite potential on your own terms by dint of your own mastery. So we have a pretty quiet time after this conglomeration of overlapping, interweaving transits. From the 3rd to the 8th of June, we only have a few transits to speak of. We have one other transit of note before this lull, which is a square from Mars to Juno retrograde on the 31st of May. Now, this is potentially conflict in relationships or agreements. It's also potential activation of any deep emotional trigger points that Juno in retrograde has been navigating. Now, there's a possibility of a power struggle. Remember, this can be within or without. Regardless, something that you're reviewing here in this retrograde journey that's deeply internal around your emotional sovereignty, something that you're reviewing around anything toxic in your ways of relating. It's getting a spotlight on it here with Mars in bright, bossy Leo. And the tension here is between the ego and emotion, between the sharing of self and the retracting of self. So this is again on the 31st of May. So the crescendo of energy is really with that Eris Chiron Venus triple conjunction that I spoke about with that new moon, which Venus is perfecting on the 2nd of June. So importantly, Venus then finishes her journey in Aries over the following days, which are empty of any transits, to enter her home sign of Taurus on the 6th of June. Now, this settles energy considerably. Taurus is steady, Taurus is nourishing, Taurus likes to preserve life, preserve pleasures, preserve creation. So any wildly passionate and inspirational things you've been moving through that are around your heart's desires, around your abundance, even your relationships, here comes to a practical settlement. Things that are not tenable will not move forward. The time now will be to consolidate your desires and ground anything into reality to work on it productively. And this is an abundance here. This is an abundant position of Venus. She's in her home sign. She's powerful. So it's a good time to work on your finances, your income, a good time to focus on your values to see what's in alignment with your abundance and your desires, what you sense to be in alignment with your heart. This is, of course, a beautiful time to give to yourself as well, to show yourself love in practical ways through treats, through enjoying things that you cherish. Anything that you can do to fortify your self-worth will be highly beneficial at this time. And this may even mean holding back and not spending, not treating, showing yourself kindness by showing yourself to be strong and restrained, depending on your situation and how this expresses for you. It's also a wonderful time to work on manifesting, building, attracting, and magnetizing any physical, tangible desires that you want to attract in your own life. And it'll also be the day that Mercury comes through to square the nodes of fate in Pisces and Virgo at 23 degrees, which is kind of a big deal here because once Mercury then changes sign into Cancer the following week with Jupiter, coming to the 3rd Jupiter-Saturn square, Mercury will be once again slightly playing into and foreshadowing this. And you may remember me banging on about it at the end of last year when Mercury was interacting with the previous Jupiter-Saturn square. Now, he won't touch Jupiter and Saturn until the 9th of June, and that mighty square is not occurring until the 16th of June. So I'm going to cover that in my next forecast video because it's a pretty big deal. But for now, on the 6th of June, with that square to the nodes, it's a readjust, a check-in, a where do I see myself going or where am I going? It's a bit of a course correct, checking your map, possibly seeing things that have been missed that need addressing. This is especially things that need finishing or letting go, a tying of loose ends, so to speak. Mercury in chatty Gemini, it really brings to your awareness and your focus any details amongst that bigger picture that could have been ignored or overlooked. Now, this is a correction day, the 6th of June, as well as a really practical, abundant grounding day, because that's also the day, remember, that Venus is entering Taurus. Now, squares can be uncomfortable. There may be some nervous tension here, which is another thing that the strong Gemini energy can slip into. Now, with the heightened focus on intellectual energies, on being mind-centric with Gemini, it's important to stay aware of your nervous system. Stay aware of how rapidly your mind is firing and how quickly thoughts are pouring in and out. So there's a lot of mental traffic, and the square to the nodes, whilst it's a pressurized configuration, it could also perhaps be the stop required. Now, I do tend to find this when mutable signs are in difficult aspect. Now, mutable signs are cunning buggers. They're flexible, they're adaptable, they're usually able to navigate through obstacles more easily than the other signs. And sometimes the obstacle can be just what's required to take a breath, reconvene, get perspective, and change tactics as necessary. And so 6th of June, allow the pause. Allow for the pause on this day because Venus in Taurus is also supporting that slowdown as well. And then we really have nothing going on until the 9th of June, which is a massive day that I'm going to talk about in the next forecast. I do always say that the days which are empty of transits do tend to be the days that the energy really sinks in. It can really show itself strongly. And even if it's just the reverberations of what have passed, it can actually be felt a lot more vitally than during the actual event of the transit itself, because it's like these empty days are kind of like a void or a container to be filled. So bear this in mind that any integration required across the 2nd till the 8th of June, it can feel quite rousing and very influential. And just allow for all of the feelings and all of the integrations that are going to be coming through. Now, with that, I'll finish up. Thanks once again for being here. It's such a joy sharing this astrological epic saga with you, and I truly hope that it affirms you, that it supports you, and I will see you again soon in my next forecast video. So ciao for now.